We just met. Tell me about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Portland, raised in Arizona. I've lived everywhere between North Carolina spent some time in Europe with my parents. But I mean, mostly it's been Washington the last my teenage years. But a little bit about myself. I used to be a correctional officer actually for DOC, Washington State Department of Corrections. But before that, I was a commercial fisherman. I worked at Alaska. I don't know, the reason I'm homeless, I guess, or I'm recently homeless. It's been like 2-3 years, but it's been an experience nonetheless, because I've never really thought I'd be in this position, I guess. But it's been eye-opening for me for sure, because I mean, coming from working, my last job was corrections, doing that kind of work, and then being in the shoes I am now, it's just been definitely eye-opening.
Yeah, well, tell me about that. I mean, so you had a job, you had a place.
I had a job, I had a place. I kind of wanted to back out of corrections because I didn't like how the justice system works. I feel like people, once they get slapped with a felony, their life kind of goes downhill. And then when they go to prison, I mean, they really do get institutionalized. It turns into a giant wheel. It's just that always people go in, and then their life doesn't seem to go up at all. It just seems to either stay flat or it gets worse for them. I just didn't want to be part of that system anymore. So
how long were you there?
I was a Washington State Department of Corrections officer for 3.5 years. Yeah. And then after that, I worked for the Ephrata Juvenile Detention Center. I thought maybe working with kids would be a little bit better, but that was more heart-ripping more than anything, because there's a lot of kids out there that get in trouble just to have a place to sleep at night or a hot meal and stuff like that, and that really tore my heartstrings, because it's they don't have parents, they don't really, but you can't really save everyone when you're doing that kind of stuff either. You can only just try to guide them in the right way, and then hopefully they'll take. But it was more like the kids all know everything's kind of a slap in the wrist for them, because they get charged with something when they're young. It just kind of fades off when they hit 18, and they all know that, and they take advantage of that for the most part. So I got out of that. I moved up here, met my girlfriend, Manna, moved up here with her, and we were kind of between housing, and we ended up getting carjacked, this is why I'm homeless, really, yeah. So I was dropping a friend off in SeaTac, and we just dropped a friend off. It was one of the hottest days of the summer. It was that day was still 100 degrees after nighttime. We were parked behind the Ramada, or the Red Roof Inn, and we had all the windows down. I was in the back seat, kind of asleep, because it was a hot day and I was getting kind of late. My girlfriend was in the front seat, and we had a friend in the passenger area, all talking. And then these 4 kids walked by, and they could double back up and put a gun on my girlfriend's head and told us to get out of the car. And we're like, okay, whoa, dude, it's the car, fine, whatever, take the car. But they ended up trying to take my girlfriend with the car, and at that point, I pulled my pocket knife out. I was able to get her away, but I got shot. So I have a bullet. I got shot right here, and the bullet went down into my hip, and it's actually, to be able to pull the bullet out right now, it would be you'd go major surgery in it. I just can't, don't want to deal with. But when I did get shot, I got shot when I didn't have health care either. So that's a nice $1 million bill right there.
So you went to the hospital?
Yeah, they rushed me to the hospital. After I got shot, after they took the car, and my girlfriend was luckily still with us, I ended up having the ambulance roll up on me. They got me into the ambulance. They couldn't find my veins or anything because of how much blood loss, but they had to go through my neck to get the IV in, and yeah, they rushed me over to Harborview, and luckily, it just by the grace of all the gods, something, I don't know what, but obviously I'm here for another reason, because all the bullet went down and missed all my vital organs, and the bullet hit my hip, my pelvis, and the bullet broke into several pieces, not my pelvis. So it's a 9mm target round is what they shot me with, thank God, because if it was a hollow point, I would have been dead.
So the
fragments are still in
there.
Yeah.
And so they got to pick those out one by one.
Yep, and that's major surgery. And that's 4 or 5 months of physical therapy afterwards too.
Yeah, so that's a lot of recovery.
So they just said, a lot of people live with shrapnel in them, but I've been noticed, and it's actually one of my big gripes about DSHS is I'm trying to get on with the HIN program, the HIN housing program, but when I told them what happened, I told them I was still having ongoing medical issues, and they're like, well, that it doesn't qualify me for HIN housing, but yet if I were to admit to having a drug problem, that would qualify me, is how it works. Because if you admit you have an addiction, then you can get into HIN housing, supposedly. I know several people that have taken that route, and I you know, it really took the wind out of my sails on trying to get like housing stuff taken care of, because it's like, wow, dude, I just got shot. I have like PTSD with loud noises now. Like, you know, I have ongoing medical issues. Like my legs go numb all the time. Like it hurts to walk for like extended period of time. And, you know, that doesn't qualify me, but.
What does that feel like?
As I said, it took the wind out of my sails, man. Like it really did. It's like, it was sad too, because it's like, you know, all I feel like I need is like, I don't have a criminal background or anything. Like I just need a stable foundation to be able to work from, and you know, it sucks.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. Those are the things that I don't know, and people don't know, like how someone who doesn't have an addiction and wants to get housing, like are struggling to get housing.
Yeah.
Which, to me, I'm like, why does that happen?
Yeah, I thought maybe I was gonna be able to get housing, but I took every route I could. I mean, I even tried to get on with the tiny homes. The tiny homes fell out in Seattle, but I mean, I've heard their own horror stories through that too. I mean, there's people getting kicked out of there left and right for doing literally nothing, and then they're sitting there camping out because their spouse is still living in the tiny homes, and they're kicked out, so they sleep outside in a tent while their spouse gets to sleep in their tiny home. And then, like, you know, going into a shelter, that wasn't really an option for me because I have my fiancé or my girl, and at shelters, it's normally men's shelter, women's shelter. There's no in between really, and it's hard to like find anything that would allow that. So I mean, I feel like I've almost tried to take every route I could, you know, just asking the state for help. So at this point, it's just been like trying to figure it out on my own, but like that obviously is not going anywhere, because it's like not having a stable foundation to work from really does not create much, I guess. Yeah. You know,
I mean, there's something in like not having a stable foundation to work from. It doesn't create stability.
Absolutely, there's no stability.
Like
my life is hectic. Like I don't know, I wake up every day trying to figure out how to approach it to try to, you know, get a little bit further. But it's like every time I get a little bit further, I get kicked backwards. You know, it gets frustrating after a while, but like, you know, I get, you got to do what you got to do to survive right now. So
yeah. Well, tell me about, you're talking about medical bills. So, you know, the hospital treats you, and they're like, you have no health insurance. What happens?
So with that, then it's been sitting in collections for a while, I believe. Yeah, I finally did get state health insurance. I don't know if they actually paid it off because I don't have a mailing address to figure out if that's the case anymore. But I know I got $1 million $1 million bill from the hospital for the ambulance ride, and, you know, for like medical treatment. So it's like getting shot was a slap in the face, but getting shot and then having $1 million bill afterwards was a double slap. So
yeah. That's, I mean, how could anyone possibly imagine paying off $1 million?
Especially in my position too. And then on top of that, then you get these stuff like before I moved over and where I'm living over in off under I-5, unfortunately, you know, it's at least it's a roof. It's a lot of road noise, but it's a roof and over a tent, you know, which is better than getting rained on in a tent because everything gets wet. But before I was living over there, I moved over to Kent because of, you know, my housing situation. I probably need to take a step back. So I moved in with a friend. She had lung cancer, and we moved in with her for a while, and that worked out well, but then she ended up passing away, so we had nowhere to go at that point, and we ended up moving out to Kent, and we lived in a place called the Y. It's off like 259th or 290. Anyway, we were living out there for a while, and I didn't realize this, but like people out there are really mean towards the homeless. Even the law enforcement, they wouldn't let a lot of the church groups come through because they think it's enabling homelessness. Wow. So when they come out there to try to give out like aid, like whether that be food, whether that be anything, they actually are like banned them from being out there. So they have to be like way out, like away from you, and they'll send somebody through to tell them that they're over there. So if you want anything, you have to go over there to get them, because the law enforcement won't let them through to like come out to the homeless over there. But anyway, while I was out there, which is one of the main reasons why I decided to move back over here, was when I was over there, I was walking back one morning, and a car came up on me and literally hit me, because then I turned around and saw the guy. I saw he wasn't steering away from me. He was literally aiming for me because he knew I was homeless. I'm fairly certain why. He knew I was homeless, and he aimed at me. He hit me, and there's a guardrail. Luckily I bounced off the car, went over the guardrail. He hit me about 30 miles an hour. And I mean, I'm fairly certain it happens like that all the time out there. Supposedly, people get hit just because they're homeless. People get pissed off with the homeless, and they take their anger out. And I ended up getting hit. Luckily, But as I said, by all the grace of the gods, again, it's like dodging a bullet this time too, because I didn't break anything. I was able to go to the hospital, got checked out, and was perfectly fine afterwards. But yeah, that was a big thing. I was like, that's one of the reasons we moved over here too, because like it seems a little bit nicer over here than it is down south as far as people's attitudes towards you. I mean, it's great. It's not the greatest, regardless, and being in a leather coat and stuff like that. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, shield your kids," kind of thing. But like,
yeah, there's a.
It's still nicer than it was down south. Down south is really brutal, like towards the homeless down there.
I'm sorry that happened. I mean, to reframe that a little bit is like, you're telling me somebody tried to kill you because you're unhoused.
Yes.
That is incredibly traumatic. Like, I've never been, no one's ever tried to run over me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that happened, man.
Well, as I said, I'm
brutal.
lucky to be alive through that. You know?
Golly. So you still have a fiancé?
Yes.
And where are you guys at? You said you're under I-5.
Yeah, so right behind Fred Hutch, under I-5, it's all DOT property, but like they allow us to stay under there, and we try to, I mean, me and my girl and like some of our friends that stay under there. It's a really quiet area. There's not a lot of people that stay back there, so it's really, a lot of people come through. We don't have to worry about our stuff being stolen, because it's like every single time leaving your property behind, you have to worry about like just either one of us has to stay there, or if we both go out, then we pray to everyone that all of our stuff doesn't get taken. It sucks, but like being over where we're at right now, over under I-5, there's not a lot of people over there. Not a lot of people know about the area to begin with, I don't think, but it's literally right behind Fred Hutch, and it's pretty quiet back there. And as I said, other than the road noise, we have a roof over our heads, kind of, as far as the highway.
Yeah.
We live pretty much right under the on-ramp to Mercer. So
the transition from being housed to unhoused, you were living in your car for a little bit?
Yeah, so we were looking for an apartment. We had a little bit of money going, but then after, like as I said, after I got shot, we had to pay. We paid what we could. We had to figure out a new living situation, because our car got stolen from us too. And then when we finally did get it back, it was wrecked. They ruined the transmission. And yeah, so that we just ended up having to get up the car, and that was really the point where I had literally no roof over my head. That was the point where I stayed in a hotel as long as I could, but like that's where my funds went. I mean, staying at a hotel is not cheap. I mean, $60 a night is the cheapest one I found, and that still like is pretty unreasonable if you look at rent in comparison to. Yeah. But yeah, that was really the point that it took, like me getting shot and getting our car stolen, was when it became completely unhoused and no car, no nothing. So.
Yeah, I think people who don't understand, like, how does this happen? It's just like, from what my experience of talking to folks, it's been kind of a domino effect of like, this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens.
Yep.
And it's like, I couch surfed, or I lived in my car, and then happens.
See, and then me moving up here from Central Washington, I didn't know anybody to couch surf on. We went straight from, because when I moved up here, she was between housing too, so we ended up living out of the car. And then when we had no car, that was really the point where we had to set up a tent. I had no other choice.
Yeah.
So.
And that was, you said 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2.5, I believe. Yeah.
Cam, is there anything that you would want the people of Seattle to know?
Yeah, I mean, just, not all homeless people are big scary monsters, I guess. I came from a background that I think would be considered pretty normal as far as like, employment, stuff like that. And, I'm not out there to thieve. I'm not out there to steal from people. I'm just trying to make my way, trying to survive. So. Yeah,
man, how do you make that happen?
You just have to. You just wake up every day and you make it happen. Yeah. You try to figure out a way.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. Thanks for telling part of your story. It's good to hear your voice, and I hope you get out of it, man.
Yeah, me too.
Somehow, some way.
Well.
Damn.
Anyway.
You got that little mic?
Yeah.